it's Joe here from Joe's Country Junction. I'm here for a FlossTube. For those of you who aren't familiar with FlossTube, it's basically a part of YouTube, and people talk about their cross-stitch work. I'm a cross-stitcher, I am a quilter, so I have to keep both sides of my life busy and up on YouTube, I guess. So if I'm not doing a Sew with Joe, I might be doing a FlossTube. And so you're here today for FlossTube. Yahoo! I'm really excited today because I have two finishes to share with you. If you read my blog, I've already shared one of the finishes on my blog. And if you don't read my blog, then maybe you want to. My blog is joescountryjunction.com. I blog twice a day, and you can see everything that I'm writing about, everything I'm crafting about, know a little bit more about my life, I guess. I'm an avid foster mom for dogs. Sorry, the dogs are moving around over here, and I have my fingers crossed because normally when I do a video, I have to like let dogs outside. I got to stop for this and I got to stop for that. Sometimes the dogs start wrestling and doing crazy things. So my hope is that maybe we can avoid some of that. I have my new camera here. I'm going to actually just snitch it a bit this way. Yeah, that would probably be better. Yeah, and I've got a blank chair there on the side today because that's where I can put some of my projects rather than throwing them on the floor and then having the dogs chase after them. So I'm so glad you could be here today. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing, and if you're not, maybe you want to, but no matter how you got here, welcome. So I'm going to start with finishes today. I'm going to start out with my bigger finish, and this is the one that I've already shown on my blog, and this is Come to the Garden. I'm hoping I could get some non-glare here. This is a project by Teresa Kogut. I love this from the first that it came out, but the saying on the bottom down here used to say, come to the garden, your senses will be overjoyed, something like that. And that wasn't quite catchy to me. So I didn't buy the chart initially. And then I was thinking about the chart, and I was watching a FlossTube, and they were talking about personalizing projects, and I thought, well, you know, I could personalize that. And I love the garden. I loved everything about the piece. I love the colors, but it was just the words that didn't like catch me. So I was thinking about it, and I thought, at my mom's funeral, at my dad's funeral, and at my niece Jodi's funeral, they all played the song In the Garden, and the main verse of that, or the beginning of it, says, I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. So maybe you could see that. Okay. And I ended up talking to my daughter Kayla about it, and Kayla was so sweet. She helped me, and she ended up charting that for me and got it so it just fit in there absolutely perfectly. And she picked a nice font that looked really good in there as well. I was just super pleased with how she did that for me. I actually have a link to those words on my blog. Again, hi, I'm back. I don't know if my daughter usually edits my videos for me, so I don't know if she'll clip part of that out or what you'll do. But anyway, somehow in the middle of all of this, my camera ran out of battery. And so we ended up, I think I'm a little bit crooked. Okay, maybe that's better, I don't know. So I ended up charging it and went and I cut out some pieces for a quilt that I'm going to be working on soon. So what I was doing is I was showing you Come to the Garden by Teresa Kogut, and I was telling you a little bit about it. I stitched on this, I started June of last year. I worked on it for a little while. There was a stitch along on Instagram, and I was working on it, and I had some other projects I had a deadline for that I was trying to do. But I was going to go catch up later after everything was moving along. But I ended up having a bunch of troubles. It turns out down here in the border, where this comes down and this comes down, this might be 20 stitches, and up here is 19 stitches, and I didn't count that out right. And then here there's like 3 fudge stitches. So watch out for the border when you stitch this one, because the border is a little bit challenging in that it's not all the same numbers all the time, but it's mostly the same numbers, and those are the trickiest ones for me. If you have a border that's 8 one time and 7 one time and 6 one time and 8 one time and 4 one time, that's not too bad. But when you have something that's consistent all along and then all of a sudden just in one spot, the count is off, then that makes it harder for me. And so the border didn't match up, and I ended up being mad. I ended up ripping out from down here all the way up and over to here. And then I stitched it again, and again it didn't meet up, and I found out that my mistake was actually just right over here. So I could have just went over here, fixed this mistake, and then restitched just about this much. And so I was extremely frustrated when I was working on this. And it was just one of those pieces that, everything was a challenge. And finally at the end, I wanted to get it done because I'm a person that doesn't like a lot of UFOs. If I've got 10 things that I'm currently working on plus my UFOs, that's a lot for me. And everybody does their own thing. That's totally okay. But for me, I just prefer not to have as many pieces going. And I just, as far as space goes, as far as money goes, as far as time goes, I just get a little anxious if I have too many pieces going. So I like to keep this going, like only about 10 or so projects going. But back to this else, everything was stitched with the called for colors. I did some personalization here. My dad's initials I think are here. My mom's are here. And my niece Jody is over here. She died from breast cancer in 2019. And so I added her onto there as well. This is a thrift store frame. I bought the frame, I think, for $4. And I have a wonderful frame shop in Decorah, Iowa called The Perfect Edge. And they will do work for other people as well. I bought this as a vintage frame. I think on kind of like a junk kind of sale thing. And I don't know, I think maybe $4. And I took the frame to them, asked them if they would cut it down. And they said they would. But it's just perfect because it's got the gold here and the red here in the center. And so I end up really, really liking it. Sorry for the glare. And while I was here talking to you about this, I thought I would show you these index card pockets that I use. I'm going to try to remember to put a link down below for them. And so they come like this, and they come with cards. And so I write all of my information onto the card. I put that into the little plastic pocket. I take the backing off, and then I just stick it onto the back down here. And then all of my information is right there. It maybe takes, I don't know, 3 minutes max, and that means I have to stand up, go find the card, go find the pen, write the information down, and attach it. And the reason why it took that long is because I couldn't remember what I stitched this on, but I did stitch this on Picture This Plus Vellum, and I think it's a good linen for this project. I really like it. I'm so happy to have this done. I'm so glad that I got over the angst I was having because it was sitting in timeout for quite some time. How I got out of that, because a lot of people ask, well, how do you get back to peace? And one of the reasons why, or one of the things I do when that happens, is I just decide I don't have to complete the whole thing. Just every week I have to put in one thread. And just one 18-inch length of thread is all I make myself do. And on most days, that means I stitch on it the whole night because I put the one thread in and I go, well, you could put another thread in. Well, you could put one more thread in. And so then that's what I end up stitching on for the night. And eventually that little progress works for me and gives me a little momentum. And then pretty soon I get far enough along that I just say, heck with it, I'm just going to finish the whole thing. Another thing I try to do sometimes is to tackle the things that I have the most, I don't want to say anxiety because it's not like a deep anxiety. It's just cross stitch. But I, like up here, I'm not very good at the counting 2 down, 3 over, 1 up, 3 down, 2 over, especially when it's not in a regular pattern. And so here, when I stitched this angel, that was part of my problem with that, is that I was feeling a little bit anxious about stitching that. Okay, I'm looking at this. Oh yes, it is recording. Sorry. It right where the record number is on there, it's the same color as this background linen, so I can't see that it's recording, but it is. So awesome. So that's how I kind of worked through that. I just decided, okay, just do that angel, get it done with, and quit worrying about it. And so that's what I did. And in the end, I'm very happy with the piece. I'm very thankful that I had the idea to restitch that and do the alternate words. It just made the piece for me. I really like personalizing things when I can because it just makes them so much more meaningful. So also on the back of my note, I wrote Stitched by Me, and I signed my name. And I also wrote on the bottom that I want this piece, if should something happen to me or when something happens to me, to go to my daughter. I don't know if a cloud just came through and shifted because my light is terrible all of a sudden. And it had been so good. I think I'm going to just pop here and flip the light on and see if that helps. Oh yeah, that helps. So I'm going to stick that one up there. I'll hang that on the wall after my video, and I'm going to keep filming because who knows what's going to happen with my light. Okay, so that was Teresa Kogut, Come to the Garden. And my next finish is Black Dog Sampler from the Scarlett House. I did this along with some of my blog readers. We did this as a stitch along. We started in January. This was my New Year, New Start piece. I picked this piece because I really liked it. A, I like red. B, it had this little black dog right here. And last year, when I started doing foster care for dogs, I got my first dog. She was a Australian Shepherd poodle mix. So she was an Aussie Doodle is what they call those. And she ended up being a foster fail, and she lives with me now, and her name is Izzy. So to commemorate Izzy, I thought, well, I'm going to put the Black Dog Sampler. I'm going to stitch that one. And a bunch of my blog readers so graciously stitched along with me, and that made it much more fun. This piece is supposed to be stitched in this bottom right here. You can see this yellow, and it's kind of like a poison yellow. It wasn't my favorite yellow at all. And so I got it as a kit, so I didn't see the yellow before I started stitching it. And I ended up thinking that was just too bright. The yellow that came with the kit was a poison yellow. And so I needed, well, I didn't need it, but I wanted something that was a little bit warmer. So I ended up picking out another red. It's an NPI 474 because I stitched this all in NPI silk. I don't use silk often. I use silk sometimes. I like the option to once in a while do that. But I also, how do you want to say, don't like the expense. So I'm willing to stitch with overdyes or DMC just to avoid some of the expense. I bought this, or I got this and was stitching it, and in the middle of stitching, I realized that this piece has one of my biggest pet peeves, and one of my biggest pet peeves is when the alphabet isn't all there. And that probably bugs me more than most people because my name is Jo, and J is typically one of the letters that's left out. And so that's just kind of frustrating to me. So I just, I guess this time I dealt with it. Sometimes I've changed the alphabet. Sometimes I simply don't stitch that piece. And there's nothing wrong with it either way. It's just kind of hard to stitch a piece when your own initial isn't in the piece. So that's where I'm at with this one. And I have my card all ready for this one. This one I stitched on Dirty Teacup by Linen and Flax. And I stitched this, I started it in January, as I said, as a New Year, New Start, and I already have it finished for the 2023 year. Yay! And this was also framed and done from The Perfect Edge in Decora. They're a wonderful frame shop. They're very quick to work with. My Come to the Garden piece, I think they had that finished in like 4 days. And this piece, I think it was like 2 weeks or maybe 2.5 weeks because the gal that does the lacing went on vacation. So how's that for quick turnaround? I think it's just awesome. We go to Decora, which is like the town where you'd go to Walmart or the grocery store in my area, and it's about 30 minutes away. That's the closest store for us, really. And I always tell her, you know, I'll probably call you when I'm going to town next, and I do when she usually has it ready for me. This last time I called, she goes, I have all the pieces here, I just don't have it put together. And I said, well, I'm coming to town at 3, and she said, well, that's great, just pick it up when you get here. So I really love that service. They do a great job, and I'm really impressed with Perfect Edge in Decorah, Iowa. And everything looks very nice and professional, and I have my card here, and I'm going to pop my card on the back when I'm done with the video. I have quite a few things that I've stitched, but I haven't finished yet. I think I'm going to have a big finishing party here, I don't know, maybe in a couple days. So here's some other things that I've been working on. First up, I have from Threadwork Primitives. Whoops, I'm not paying attention. This is from Threadwork Primitives. I think I changed some of the colors here. I have a note on the back. I used Cherry Cobbler, Deep Sea, Blue Heron, Olive, and Hickory Sticks. And here is my finished piece. I had a scrap left over of Lakeside Vintage Meadow Rue, and I very much enjoyed using that on this. I think the darker color, like if you see in the pattern here, it's harder to see the eagle's head, but here on the darker linen you can see the eagle's head a little bit better. And I stitched this, I started it on June 1st. I did stitch this as part of the Colorado Cross Stitchers Summer Stitch Camp. It was small, easy, quick. I'm just going to finish it into a little pillow. I think that's the plan anyway. It'd be nice if I got it done here before 4th of July so I could actually enjoy seeing it out. We'll see if that happens, because I tend to be a procrastinator when I'm finishing stuff sometimes, but I have really a big pile here to do. I do want to say one thing is that in the process of stitching these bunch of smalls that I have here, oh, that sounds like that's Izzy going to start barking. I have discovered barking dogs. Hey girls, no. I started using these Nurge hoops, and I will put a link for them below. I absolutely, positively love them, and I'm going to show you one of the reasons why. Is I can use a small piece of fabric like this, and I can use the hoop on there, and I can still have plenty of room to stitch. I still have plenty of room to finish, but it makes me able to use up these small pieces of linen, and that saves a lot of money. If you're just, using a small piece of linen, you can use this hoop, because a circle hoop like this, you can't get into the corner then, but these hoops that have that little rectangle edge here, I'm able to get into the center with those. I especially used them when I was working on the stitch along that I hosted on my blog, and so viewers or readers had the option to stitch either one or both of these. Both of these are by October House. This one is the Itch to Stitch. This one is Snip. And Liz, the owner of the Stitchery Nook in Osage, Iowa, that's my local needlework shop, which I absolutely love. The girls there are just awesome. And anyway, Liz and I had a little thing, and I said, well, how about we stitch this one for the next stitch along? And Liz said, I don't know. She goes, I like this one better. And I said, well, I like this one better. And so Liz and I compromised, and we decided to offer both of them as a stitch along. So me being a good sport decided I'd stitch both of them. And then Liz and I had a little friendly competition to see which pattern was more popular. Excuse me. In the end, I think it was really close. I think it was only like one person one way or the other that ordered more kits for, I think it was Snip. I actually think she won. She didn't think that as many people would want to stitch this one because she thought it was more quilting related, and I'm like, what? Quilting related's good. So anyway, I stitched both of those, and again, the piece of linen we got was only this wide, so having this little hoop that fit was just perfect. I love holding it. It's super lightweight. If you're a hoop stitcher at all, or if you're somebody who's not a hoop stitcher and you want to try to use up smaller pieces of linen, this is the extra small size, and I have bought the small size now too. But I think now I've purchased probably 3 of these because, well, they're only like $4.50 a piece on Amazon. I'll put the link below. And I like having them if I'm stitching smalls. That's my favorite small hoop now. And I don't keep any from any other brand except these. And for bigger projects, I do still keep my Morgan hoops. I like those. So anyway, this was Itch to Stitch. I stitched this on called for linen, which was 36 count. No, I actually have 40 count. It's cream and sugar linen from Fiber on a Whim. I have to look, and I used all the called for colors. So that one's done. And then I stitched the Snip. Again, I used my little hoop, and this is how this one looks. I need to get working on getting these finished. I don't quite know for sure how I'm going to finish them. I don't know where I'm going to display them yet, so that's kind of makes me not know how I want to finish them because I don't know where I want to display them. But I really like these. Very fun to stitch. Quick and easy. I think maybe I stitched this in 2.5 nights maybe. The other one was kind of fun because I had grandkids here and I needed something easy to stitch because I usually sit with them when they fall asleep to take a nap. And when I do, I like to have something to stitch on, but I need something that you don't have to do a lot of counting with. This was perfect because those spools, you didn't have to count much. It was just back and forth stitching. I guess I shouldn't wiggle that like that, but super happy with having these both stitched. Well, as I told you earlier, I'm a person who doesn't like to have a ton of whips. And so I want something that was in my whip pile that I had kind of thought I might give up on is this I Collect pattern from With a Needle and Thread. I'm hoping you can see that. I stitched all of the small pieces from Keeper of the Pins. I showed that in a previous video when my daughter Kelly was here. And I thought this would just be a cute piece to go with it. I wasn't so excited about stitching the I Collect part that's right here, but I did really like the piece besides that. So I converted the colors so that they would match the Keeper of the Pins. And I did that, and I ended up, I started out, I had only stitched this top part of the jar, and for some reason to me, I didn't like how the jar color was. It wasn't showing up very good. It's showing up great here on camera. I wish it showed up like that in person. And so I kind of thought about maybe I would just ditch this project because I wasn't super happy about it. This is stitched on Vintage Country Mocha. I don't mind Vintage Country Mocha at all. It's a good way to, good thing to use on smalls because it uses up all the little pieces I have left over. And so these pieces, so I worked on this, and I finally just decided I had let it sit after I only stitched the top. And I decided I was going to come down, stitch the side of the jar, and get to this pin cushion over here. And if I got to that pin cushion and I started stitching that, and the colors didn't make it pop somehow, then I was going to be done with it and not finish it. Well, I got down here, I stitched the pin cushion, and I thought, wow, I guess I really like this. So that's what I ended up doing, is I ended up finishing it, and I finished this rather quickly. So on a Saturday night, I outlined everything that was left. So I outlined this tomato, I stitched the scissors, I outlined this stuff up here, and then the next day, I had grandkids coming over, and they were being so good. They were playing outside, and so I pulled up a chair out there and watched them, and I just sat and stitched. And I had a great time doing it, and now I'm super happy about this piece. I have the buttons glued on, but I haven't stitched them on, and I haven't finished it yet. I'm super excited about it, though. I can't wait to add it to my Keeper of the Pins pieces. One thing I did change, or whatever I changed, made some modifications. I did not put the I Collect down here because I don't think it needed it. It doesn't really match the Keeper of the Pin stuff. And the other thing is that I moved this, the little piece here from the pin cushion. It was out here further, but I moved it in. The reason it was out here further was because the words I Collect were down here, and they would have ended out here, and so that piece was out there. But I was just going to want to keep it smaller, so I just moved that in a little bit and made some adjustments. No big deal, but I'm super excited. A blog reader gave me these buttons. I'm super excited about them too. They're old vintage buttons, and they're some fun, funky shapes. So, yay, another finish. So right here in this pile, I have 4 little pillows or little small things that need to be finished. And I know I have 2 more in my pile, and I have one of my daughter's Kelly's upstairs. So that's quite a few little things that I need to finish. So I think I'm going to have a finish fest here pretty soon. But on to what I'm actually stitching on. I have no small things, really. Well, I guess one small thing I'm stitching on right now. I'll pull that one out first. Okay, that is, oh, where's the pattern? Where's the chart? Here it is. That is Lady Liberty with my needle and thread. Last year, I believe, I saw Olivia at Pumpkin Hollow Quilt stitching this, and I really liked it. So I kind of wanted to stitch it too. So I bought the pattern, and then of course 4th of July passed, and that was the end of that feeling. I think we all do that. We think, oh, I love what somebody else stitched, I'm going to buy that pattern. And then you buy the pattern, and then by the time you get it, it's like a couple days before 4th of July, and you think, yeah, I'm not going to stitch that now. So I think that's what happened to me, because it fell off my radar. And this year it got back on my radar. So here I am working on this. This is stitched on, let me think, again, that piece of Lakeside Meadow Rue. So I did a good job on using all the scraps of that. So this is a good color for this, because I wanted mine to be a darker color, again, so the white of Lady Liberty's skirt would show up. And with this on there, on this linen, I think that's going to show up awesome. I'm super excited about this piece. One thing that was kind of disappointing for me, it's not any fault of anyone. This is an older pattern. It's still available. You can still get it. If you can't get it at your local needlework shop, you can go to Country Stitches online, and it's available there. The problem with this for me is that it uses some Valdani threads, and I would have had to order those, and I didn't really want to order those, so I just switched out some colors, and so I wouldn't have to buy extra threads. And I don't remember exactly what they were at this point, so I will wait, and when I finish it, I will inform you on what changes I made. So for now, that's the best I can do, and it's really kind of small. And of course, this is on 40 count, so it's smaller than probably the original pattern, because it was on 36 count, but I'm really happy and excited about this. I have 0, like the goose egg 0 pieces of Patriotic that are stitched. So I was hoping to remedy that a little bit this year, so at least I got this piece stitched, the Patriotic Rose from Threadwork Primitives, and I also got this piece stitched. Well, I will hopefully have this piece stitched. I have enough time between now and the 4th of July that I think I can at least get it stitched. I think I'll probably frame it. I like to frame small things. It's just me and who I am and what I do, and now my bags are all mixed up, so it's a problem if you're doing FlossTube to keep everything like where it needs to go. I use some project bags, but I'll be honest, I still have quite a few bags like these. I like to spend my money on charts. Too many charts. Lots and lots of charts. I'm a chart girl. And so I have too many charts and not many bags for finishing, or bags for project bags. Okay, next up, I'm going to a retreat at the Stitchery Nook in Osage, Iowa, and that is in July, mid-July. And so I've been trying to figure out what do I want to stitch when I'm there. Last year I stitched when I went on my All Creatures Great and Small by Barbara Anna, and I was just excited to stitch on that. Just super, super excited to stitch on that, because I was kind of at meh spot that I wasn't too excited about the piece anymore. And then I spent those days stitching at the retreat, and it kind of just totally bumped me up and got me excited more about stitching again on that piece. And then I brought it home, and I did end up finishing that later. And it maybe took me a couple months, but I got that finished. But without that little bump at the retreat, I think it would have taken me longer to get out of my rut and get going on it. So this piece I thought might be a good piece for taking with to the retreat. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go around and make sure I had all the border done. And so I have done that. I'm going to try to fold this so you can see it a little better. This piece isn't as big as some of the other Teresa Kogut things I've done. This one's 268 over and by 146. And so it's going to be 15 3/8 by 8 3/8, which I really like this piece. I told you earlier in the segment that I work with an animal rescue and I foster a lot of dogs. And so this one to say pet all the dogs is completely and totally appropriate for me. And I really do want to stitch it. I think I'm going to somehow personalize it. I might put the names of some of the special dogs in my life down here. I'm not sure. I might just put some initials around here. Maybe in the chart I would put, maybe chart some of the first letters of some of the dogs' names that have been special to me in my life. I might put them there. I don't know. I'm just not sure what I want to do, but in the meantime, I can get a lot of stitching done before I have to worry about how I'm going to personalize it, because that house is giant. It's not the first giant red house I'll stitch of Teresa Kogut's, though. I've also stitched, it's up here. I don't know if you can see it. I stitched, what is that one? Heaven and Nature. And that has even a bigger house on it. So I'm excited to be stitching on this one. I hope at the retreat I could, pick something up and make some progress on this. I might move over and start an outline of the house before the retreat comes, so that once the retreat's here, I can do more fill-in stitching. That might be a good idea, just so I'll really see a ton of progress all at once at the retreat. And it just matters. Sometimes at a retreat, there's like a chatty time. Our retreat only has about 15 people coming, and so we really do sit around and chat a lot, and we chat with everybody, and it's really nice. I enjoy it, and I think that sometimes it'll be nice to have maybe some border I could work on that might involve a little bit more counting, but at the same time I'm going to memorize some of those flowers. It might be nice just to have the house to fill in. So I'm going to do some work on this coming up to get it, what do you want to call, a retreat ready? Yeah. So I'm really excited about this. I'm stitching this with the Call for Colors, and this is Seraphim Fabrics and in the colorway Boston. It's kind of like I think there's a name called Greige. It's kind of like a gray beige, and here it was a little bit more gray, but I kind of like the little bit warmer of a greige color. So I went with that. I'm really excited to be working on this. Back in 2020 at Spring Market, I had just started getting into cross stitch more in 2019. My husband was sick with lung cancer, and I was in the hospital a lot with him, and so I started stitching a lot while I was just waiting for him, or he was in the waiting room after surgery, or waiting while he had chemo, those kind of things. And so I did a lot of stitching. Well, he ended up passing away in 2019, and then I kept stitching. It was kind of like something I could do in the evening and not think about him not coming home. And so that's kind of when I got to be stitching regularly all the time. And so now I'd say I stitch every evening, maybe for a half an hour, or maybe for 2.5 hours. It's more aimed closer to like maybe an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half at the end of the night is what I do for stitching, and I really enjoy doing it. Well, anyway, in 2020, Teresa Kogut came out with 4 patterns at market, and this was one of them. And she also had Newcastle Bouquet. Is it Faith, Love, Hope, Peace? I don't know what that one is for sure, but I have that chart and I want to stitch that one yet. And I also stitched the Heaven and Nature piece. I just loved all 4 of those. They were like immediately my favorite charts that I've ever seen, and I really wanted to stitch all of them. And so gradually, slowly, I keep working on another one and another one. And I have everything kitted and ready and together to stitch the face. Is it Peace, Hope, Faith, Love? I don't know, that one. And I plan on stitching that one at some point too. They're just, for some reason, I loved all 4 of them. I couldn't decide which ones to buy. And I bought 3 of them. And then later on, I went and bought the last one. And I'm going to stitch them all someday. And I've stitched the Come to the Garden piece too. Teresa Kogut, I like a lot of her stuff. Yeah. I like the bigger stuff better than the smaller stuff. That's just me. I love her borders and I love her colors. She's amazing with colors. So that was Pet All the Dogs. So then, remember I'm working on that whip pile? Well, in that whip pile was this. This is Birds of a Feather from Blackbird Designs. I love this piece. This is a piece that I was, you can go on eBay and you could put in a search so that they give you a search alert when someone puts up for sale the item that you're looking for. So I had this up, and this was the item I was looking for, and I had this up for a long time and never got it. It was like $100, and I really liked it, but I wasn't going to pay $100 for just one pattern. So I wrote something about it on my blog that, you know, I was looking for this pattern, and a blog reader had it, and she told me that I could have it. And so she ended up sending this to me. She sent this to me in January, and then later I found out that it was being released at Market in March. And so I was super excited. A lot of people are stitching this right now. And I decided I wanted to get mine stitched because sometimes it's kind of fun to stitch something when everybody else is, and sometimes I don't like it. But I was really in the mood to stitch this because everybody was so excited that it got re-released, so I wanted to join in the excitement. Well, I got it out. I was working on the border, and the border, I don't know, there's nothing wrong with the border. I've counted and counted, and apparently I just can't count because I could not get my border to match. I was down here at the bottom again. This is the cursed spot for me, down on the bottom, right down here. I couldn't get it to match up. So I ripped out up to here, and then I started stitching this way, and then I started stitching down this way, and I could see it wasn't going to match up again. And I said something to my daughter Kelly, and Kelly said, well, Mom, I can see where you're off one thread right here. So I ripped down to there, got that pulled out, and I tried to get everything to match up again. And I am somehow one stitch off. And so right down here, there's 4 stitches when there's normally only 3 stitches going around. And I had it, there's a mistake in there, but unless I told you that, you probably wouldn't notice, because here it is. Can you notice that? I think it's just fine, and I'm not going to worry about it. If I went through and tried to find where that exact mistake is, I would probably hate this piece, and in the end, I do not want to hate this piece, because after all, it was my unicorn chart, so I want to try to get it stitched. Excuse me. So I also, I'm going to do the whole thing like I said when I did Come to the Garden, that I just put 1 thread into it every week, and I'm going to try to get back in love with this because the border did frustrate me, but I don't want that to make me quit. So I'm going to keep going on it. And so far there's 1 line in the basket down here you probably can't see very good, and I worked on some things just over in here and put the leaves in down here. And this might be something I take with to the retreat too. I just might stitch in the leaves one night, or just if I get bored stitching on the same piece, I might just bring this along and stitch there along the leaves, or I might start working on this big pot right here, because that would be something good to get done at a retreat as well. So we'll just see. I'm excited to be stitching it. I'm stitching this on Picture This Plus Doubloon. It's my favorite goldish colored linen. It warms every piece up. Any piece that I use it's kind of like a warm piece. And I really like that. So really right now, my main whips are this, Pet All the Dogs, and the Little Lady Liberty piece. Those are the main things I'm working on. But I usually like to have more projects than that. Usually I have a small going too. So I'm going to probably pull out some kind of small and try to get that stitched up pretty soon. And then I will be doing something for July, summer cross stitch camp with Colorado Stitcher, but I haven't decided what that's going to be yet. Part of me has wanted to do one thing, part of me has wanted to do another thing. I think you all can relate. One of the things I would really like to stitch is My Heart Can Rest. It's another Blackbird Designs project. The cover picture isn't very good, so I'm going to open this up and I'm going to show you this inside picture. I like that much better. And part of the reason I want to stitch this, and then I'm thinking about even stitching it for Stitch Camp, even though it's a bigger piece, is that I want to stitch it for myself, actually. I told you that my husband passed away in 2019. And so I'm to the point in my grieving process that I believe my heart can rest. This is where I'm at, this is who I am now, and this is where I'm going to be, and I think it would be a very appropriate piece for me to stitch because of that. And so I've got it all kitted, it's all ready to go. I haven't started it yet because I'm still thinking if I want to stitch this or not, because it's not that big. Let me look at the size. It's 170 by 157. So that would be 8.5 by 8. That's not that big, but I don't know if I want to put all that much time into a project. I don't know if I'd rather do a smaller project, but I really do want to stitch this, so I might start it anyway, just because July is the month of our anniversary as well. So I don't know where I'm sitting with that. There's a couple other Blackbird design things that I have that are small that I'd love to do that I haven't been doing. So we'll just see. Sometime or another, this is going to get started, and not too far away. I have Shrekky's Tan by Needle Bling Designs picked out for that, and I have all the called for threads. I don't know. We might have to make some adjustments. We'll see. That used to just freak me out to make an adjustment on a color, because I used to think that, oh my gosh, I'm just not going to have this piece as nice as what the designer did because my colors are different. But I've kind of changed my tune a little bit with that. I have one more project to show you, and I'm going to be writing about this in my blog soon. What happened for me is back in, maybe August, September last year, my daughter Kayla said to me, "Hey Mom, let's start Consider the Lilies." I'll be honest, I had the chart, but I really wasn't like gung-ho, let's go stitch this, because this baby is huge. It is, if you stitch it on 28 count, it ends up being like 26 by 31. If you stitch it on 40 count, it ends up being 18 by 22. I bought it immediately when it came out because I was just in love with it. I was super excited about it, but then I realized how giant it was. I was a new stitcher at the time when it came out, and my thought was that, oh, I can stitch anything. It's so fast to stitch, and little did I know how long it actually takes to stitch a piece. I mean, some things stitch up pretty fast, but a lot of things, like a big thing like this is going to take a lot of time. I have up on the wall right here, you can see the Floral Motif Sampler by the Scarlett House. I love that, but it took me 2 months to stitch that. A lot of times I was only stitching one motif a day, and that was fine, but it took 2 months to stitch that. I have no idea how long this giant girl is going to take to stitch. So my daughter Kayla then last year asked me if I wanted to start that with her. And I said, yeah, okay, I could start that with her. I'm trying to encourage her to have a hobby. And so in my saying yes, it was more of an encouragement for her than it was that I was gung-ho about stitching it. So she goes, well, let's start it right now. So I just dug in my linen, and the only thing that I had that was big enough for it was Vintage Country Mocha. So that's what I started it on. I had most of the colors that I could start, and then I ended up getting the rest of the colors later. But this was my small start right here. And we stitched on it one weekend when she was at my house, and that's all I got stitched, just this much. Well, it sat. And remember, I don't like UFOs that much. I wanted to look at my UFOs this spring. And I have 3 UFOs that I really have turned into longer term UFOs. They're like almost a year old. And so they are Consider the Lilies, A Savior's Praise, and Christmas Garden by Blackbird Design. So I was just kind of frustrated with myself that why are I just letting these sit here? And it's not that I can't have 3 UFOs. That's not a problem. I understand that. I love those pieces. Why aren't I stitching them? So I got thinking about that and what was I going to do and how could I like approach the project so that I would actually stitch them. Well, then I went to the thrift store. When I was at the thrift store, they had a frame there, and it was a big frame. I mean, like a really big frame. And it was for $2. And I looked on it. I really liked the frame, but the frame had a little dent in it. And I got looking at it, and I thought, I think I can just put some black like wax over the top of that because it was a distressed frame anyway. I really think I could do that and make and I could buy this frame. I could cut it down and use it for a piece because it's so big. It's nice because it's so big. It could fit anything that I wanted to stitch. Well, I got the frame home, and I just got thinking about Consider the Lilies, and I got thinking, I think this frame just might work for Consider the Lilies. And I measured it out, and the frame will work for Consider the Lilies. So I fixed that spot, and I have a frame waiting down in the basement for when I whenever get Consider the Lilies stitched. Well, that still wasn't enough to convince me to get going on stitching Consider the Lilies. I'm a person that likes a plan, and so in my last video, I showed you that I had stitched the Apostles' Creed. And my plan for that was I started on my birthday, December 14th, and it is a lot of words because it's only the Apostles' Creed in it and a few motifs. I looked at that and I decided, I could get that stitched if I just made a commitment to stitch 1 row of letters a week because stitching all those letters at once would drive me crazy. But stitching 1 row a week, that's no big deal. So oftentimes I would sit down to stitch my 1 row a week and my stitching time wasn't up, so I would continue stitching into the next row. I would do that, and then pretty soon I was stitching more than 1 row a week, and it didn't take me very long to stitch it. It still took me a few months, but it's all framed on the wall, and you can go back in my last video, and you can see that in that video, and see what I was working on then, and my fully finish of it. So I like to have a little plan. Right up here is Anniversaries of the Heart. I was a person that stitched that, I believe that was in 2021, I think I maybe stitched that. But I did 1 each month, and I like that because I kind of like little assignments to do, and then I feel very accomplished when I get the assignments done. So then I got thinking, well, maybe I could approach Consider the Lilies that way. But that was the end of my thought. Then I went to the stitchery nook, and someone was moving, and Liz, the owner, had framed her Consider the Lilies piece, and the lady moved, but she doesn't have a spot to hang it on the wall yet. She hasn't figured out what she's going to do with her cross-stitch items, so she let Liz display it at the stitchery nook until she decides what she's going to do with it. So I saw one in the shop completely finished, and I was just like, like deer in a headlight. I was just so excited to see that. And it got me thinking, you really do want to stitch this. It's just time to stitch it. So I went home and I finished up all those little smalls that I've been doing. This week I actually finished 3 of those. And so I sat down and I thought, well, what are you going to stitch on? And for some reason, Consider the Lilies bounced into my head. And I pulled it out and I got looking at it. And I thought, well, maybe you just need to approach that whole thing that you need to stitch 1 thread each day. Just put, or each week. You just need to put 1 thread in. It doesn't matter how far you get. It doesn't matter if you finish a motif. You just have to put 1 thread in each week. I thought, well, that might be a pretty good idea. So I got looking at the book and I pulled it out and I started stitching more border. And so my little stitch that was just this much ended up to be a little bit more border stitch. And now I'm this far. I'm just going to silence that for a minute. Okay, so now I'm this far with the border, and I'm only over this far. I think I'm a little bit over half of going across. And so I was pretty excited about that. And then I got looking, and I pulled the book out and started looking at the book and paging through. And I was on page 1. And I know that we're not really supposed to show the charts, but I'm going to show you the chart of page 1 because in all reality, you are not going to be able to stitch this by just seeing page 1. And so here we go. This is what I have stitched. This is page 1. I almost have page 1 stitched. And I only stitched on that one weekend. It was like maybe 3 days over the weekend that I stitched on it. Just a little bit in the evening with, my daughter. Wow. If one page is only that much, maybe I could stitch this thing. I was pretty excited about it. So then I went through and I looked at the pages, and the pages weren't numbered, but I went through and I counted the pages, went all the way through the book. I mean, some pages, I'm going to flash this, are narrower. I mean, that doesn't even fill the whole page. And I just got looking and looking and looking, and there are 24 pages in the book. And I decided what would happen if I would stitch one page every month. That's not very much. All I got to do is stitch about this much every month. I think I maybe could do that. And so this huge project suddenly has become doable for me. And I am just absolutely positively thrilled. And next month in July, I'm going to start, I'm calling it a marathon along. And it's a marathon along for Consider the Lilies. And so anybody who wants to join me certainly can. I'm a very loose rule maker. My idea is to start sometime in July and stitch a page every month. You can stitch whatever page you want. If you want to go through and stitch the whole border first, like I am going to do, and then go back and stitch a page a month, you can. If you want to stitch down one side, if you want to stitch across the top first, if you want to stitch around the bottom first, if you want to do the top left, you want to do the bottom right, whatever you want to do, you can stitch it however you want, but the goal is to try to finish a minimum of a page a month. And so that's what I'm going to do. I talked to my daughter Kelly, and she is going to start it, and I talked to my daughter Kayla, and Kayla is on board. She's going to try to work on hers a little bit too, because after I explained to her that little bit that we stitched one weekend is actually a page, she got pretty excited about it too, because, to stitch this much in a month, that's not very much at all. And so Kelly is thinking that she might try to stitch 2 pages a month. She kind of thinks a little ambitiously, so I don't know if she'll quite do that. But me, I'm going to stitch a minimum of 1 page a month. If I want to, I might stitch a little bit more. And I'm one of those people that if a motif, like this motif and this motif over here are really in the second page, but there's a start of a motif down here that's in the first page, I'm not picky. Whatever you want to call a month, you call a month. And that's how I'm going to do it. Because I've got these little things over here is equivalent to what would be right here. I'm calling that good for the month. I don't have that part of the border done, but I'm not going to do that until I'm all the way around, because that's the kind of girl I am. I like to get all the way around and things meet up, because for me, sometimes they don't meet up. I don't know what it is with me and borders. Yeah. And some people say that they would never stitch the border first. I just have this little anxiety that it's not going to line up. So I want to stitch the border first and just get that anxiety over with so I can move on and just have joy after that. So I am going to be stitching Consider the Lilies. It's a marathon along, because this piece is not a stitch along, it's a marathon. So a marathon along is perfect for it. A lot of people have already stitched this. A lot of people have already started it. If you're somebody who's already started it and want to join in, jump in. I'd love to have you join us. I don't think I'm going to start any new hashtags, because there's already Consider the Lily hashtags out there. So there's no need, I don't feel, to start a new one, because share the joy with everybody else who's been stitching it is good for me. But I am just absolutely super excited. And so I'm going to probably keep working on the border here yet in June. And I'll start seriously getting that one page done a month here coming up once July hits around. And so this is something else I'm just absolutely excited about, because this would be so nice to have up on my wall. And now I have a plan, so now I can do it. I'm just a girl who likes a plan. I hope I'm not the only one out there. So you'll have to let me know if I am the only girl. And yes, I talk a lot with my hands. Sorry. I don't know if that's a Midwest thing or if it's a me thing. My mom talked with her hands. I talk with my hands. So if you're going to be around here, you probably got to tolerate it. Sorry about that. Or just look down and stitch. That works too. I think that's everything I have for you. I'll be back sometime, hopefully in a month or so. I usually try to do a FlossTube video once a month. I don't have any set date, so that's why it's important to subscribe and ring the bell. And the bell will give you a notification when I have a new FlossTube video out, and then you'll see it right away. But that's what I have for you for now. And yeah, my dogs are really pretty good this time. I didn't have to stop the camera for the dogs. I just had to stop the camera for a bad battery. But, that's life. We all run out of battery sometimes. So take it easy, and I'll see you here next time at Joe's Country Junction. Thanks for joining me. Bye.